This is the Redmi Note 14, an incremental upgrade over the Note 13, which was also an incremental upgrade over the Note 12. But unlike last year, there is some good news. It sports a better processor, the MediaTek Helio G99. Well, that's probably not so much of a good news for those with the MediaTek phobia, I guess. And also, a heads up, there are some questionable changes. So, the Redmi Note 14 is the newest generation of Xiaomi's most affordable Note device. It looks like the bezels got thicker. I no longer have the Note 13, but I feel like they did. Now I'm going to quickly confirm from the specs sheet. Yeah, while the display specs are mostly the same as the last generation, this one has 85.9% screen to body ratio, while the Note 13 had 87.5%. There are a couple of downgrades Xiaomi made with this device, and I'm actually curious why. For starters, the bezels on the display I just mentioned, and then we've lost the ultra-wide camera. Yikes. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. The Redmi Note 14 has quite a lot to offer when it comes to budget smartphones, especially when compared to the competition. As for whether it is a good enough upgrade to its successor, that is something you'll probably decipher from this review. The pricing of the Note 14 is fair when compared to what the competition has to offer. It has a starting price of around $150, and in Naira, it costs about 253,000 for the base version, which comes with 6 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage. You also get options with 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage, which costs higher. The unboxing experience is the usual. All the essential accessories are present except for earphones. The phone has a hybrid SIM slot, which means you can either use 2 nano SIM cards or 1 SIM and a micro SD card for expandable storage, up to 1 TB. So if you're someone who needs extra storage for photos, videos, or applications, this is a nice option to have. The charging brick is 33 watts. The Redmi Note 14 looks good, especially in this lime green color. The design is giving some nostalgia with a touch of deja vu. Xiaomi opted to go back 2 generations in terms of design, making it similar to what we saw with the Redmi Note 12 from 2 years ago. But one thing I like is the fact that they have opted for a matte finish, so it feels really nice on the hands. The build quality is better thanks to the use of Gorilla Glass 5 on the display, which is an upgrade from Gorilla Glass 3 on its predecessor, the Note 13. That, along with a bigger battery, explains why it weighs about 8 grams more than the Note 13. Xiaomi is also boasting of the Note 14's durability, but we won't be testing that here. Ingress protection is maintained at IP54 like previous generations, so it's only certified for dust and splash, not immersion. The Redmi Note 14 has dual stereo speakers which sound decent for a budget phone. It also includes the 3.5mm headphone jack. Yeah, it's still there, and as usual, it's at the top. There is also the IR blaster, which is always handy for controlling your electronic devices. On the display side of things, the Note 14 has a 6.67 inches AMOLED display with 120Hz refresh rate and a peak brightness of 1800 nits. That is bright enough for outdoor use, and the colors are vibrant, as you'd expect from an AMOLED panel. As I earlier pointed out, the bezels are thicker than on the Note 13. It's not a big deal, but it's noticeable if you are coming from the previous model. For performance, it is powered by the MediaTek Helio G99, which is actually an old processor by 2025 standard, but it has been a reliable one. It's the same processor that powered the Redmi Note 13 Pro of last year, the 13 Pro 4G precisely. But unless you are benchmarking for phone, you really won't feel the difference, mostly. The G100 is powering the Note 14 Pro, by the way, the Note 14 Pro 4G. This device is competing with the likes of Samsung's Galaxy A16 4G, which sports the same G99, Technospark 30 Pro and Infinix Hot 50 Pro Plus. These are all devices in the same budget category with similar performance. Do let me know in the comments which you would want to see me compare with the Note 13 first. The Redmi Note 13 4G was powered by the Snapdragon 685, and I feel like the Snapdragon faithfuls might be unhappy with the decision to go with MediaTek for this one. But the reality is most manufacturers have gone for MediaTek for mid-range and budget smartphones. Not to worry, because the G99 has been a reliable processor since its release, and since it powered the Note 13 Pro 4G, it is reasonable they adopted it for the Note 14. There's a 5G version of the Note 14 which did not make it to this region. That one sports a MediaTek Dimensity processor. Back to what we have here. The G99 works great so far in my experience. It handles everyday tasks just fine. The fingerprint scanner is an optical one embedded in the display. It's fast and accurate, so no complaints there. For those that game on their smartphones, the Note 14 is much improved over its predecessor. The gaming is more consistent with little to no heating concerns, just expected warmth after marathon gaming sessions. Your high graphics titles will run fine here on medium graphics and high frame rates. The Note 13 could reach high graphics on the likes of Call of Duty Mobile, but it struggled with consistency and you could only play high frame rate with low graphics. It basically choked on high graphics performance, so it makes sense that they went for the more optimized G99 for the Note 14, which I believe contributes to the improved gaming performance here. Now do keep in mind, this is still a budget phone, so you want to manage your expectations. The Redmi Note 14 runs on Android 14 with Xiaomi's HyperOS version 1. I believe the Note 13 should already be on Android 15 and HyperOS 2. I wonder what's the holdup. Now the software is smooth and the multitasking has been great so far. You get features like split screen multitasking and second space, which is always nice to have. It won't be a Redmi phone without all the bloatware and ads. Yeah, they're still here and yes, they are still annoying. If you're not careful during setup, you might end up with a ton of unwanted applications. You literally need to untick them during setup, and even then, you'll still find some pre-installed apps. It is what it is. As for AI features, there's not much of it here. You get an eraser tool and sky replacement tool, but it's not as packed as what you find on the 14 Pro Plus or even Techno and Infinix devices at this price point. But hey, like everyone else, you get access to Gemini, and I guess AI features are not necessarily tied to smartphones. There's always a website or app that meets specific need if you so desire. As for software updates, there should be 3 major OS upgrades, or technically 2. This was supposed to launch with Android 15, but since it came with Android 14, when HyperOS 2 comes, you'll be left with just 2 updates. But that's not bad. For battery life, we see major improvements. The Note 14 packs a 5500 mAh battery, which is a bump from the Note 13, which had, I think, just over 5000. The battery life is solid, and unless you are a heavy user, this should easily last you a full day. It supports 33 watts fast charging, and Xiaomi claims it can go from 0 to 100% in about an hour and 21 minutes. In my experience, it's closer to 1 hour and 30 minutes, but that's still pretty good for a phone in this price range. Now let's talk cameras. The main camera is a 108 megapixel sensor, which takes sharp and detailed photos in good lighting. But the bummer here is the fact that Xiaomi removed the ultra-wide camera. Instead, you get a 2 megapixel macro camera and a 2 megapixel depth sensor, which you might not find the most useful. The ultra-wide camera was actually useful, and losing it feels like a step backwards, but not to nitpick. The front-facing camera is a 20 megapixel shooter, and it does a decent job for selfies. Although it could use some improvements in the processing, I feel like the Note 13 would do a better job. Too bad I don't have one here. Both the front and the rear cameras can shoot 1080p video, with the rear camera going up to 60 fps. But don't expect anything groundbreaking in terms of video quality here. It's a budget phone after all. So, is the Redmi Note 14 a good upgrade? Well, for the most part it is. On the one hand, you get a better processor, bigger battery, and Gorilla Glass 5. On the other hand, you lose the ultra-wide camera and have to deal with thicker bezels, which is probably not a deal breaker. Probably. So, who is it for? If you are a first-time user of a Redmi phone, this is a good start. That's assuming you're coming from a lesser phone. Someone interested in budget gaming will find this decent too. You should definitely skip it if you're coming from the Note 13. It's not much of an upgrade. If the ultra-wide camera is that important to you, the Galaxy A16 or A15 will serve. For the price, the Redmi Note 14 is a solid budget phone, especially if you're coming from an older device. So, would you pick up the Redmi Note 14, or are you holding out for something better? If you want a head-to-head with the Galaxy A16, you should really smash that like button. That's all from me. Peace out.